Welcome everybody to an introduction presentation of a tool called PowerSC Tools for IBMi, Certificate Expiration Manager. My name is Thomas Barlen. I'm a consultant with IBM's Systems Lab Services and Training Organization and responsible for power system security on IBMi and AIX, supporting mainly clients in entire Europe and partly outside. So the Certificate Expiration Manager is actually one tool that is offered as part of the PowerSC tools for IBMi. Those are tools that are actually solving issues that our clients might have in the security and compliance arena. Before we actually go into the tool itself, I want to give you a brief background information about the certificates, what they are, how they are used, and what the problems are that typically our clients face. So certificates are actually a digital ID that, for example, when we encrypt network sessions, are used by a server so that the client can authenticate the server it's connected to. Optionally, some services also support something that's called client authentication. In this case, a client will also have a certificate and presents that as part of the session establishment, which is called handshake, to the server, so that a mutual authentication can take place. Usually, in most cases, like if you connect to your home banking website and establish a secure connection with HTTPS on a browser, it's only server authentication. That means the client gets, during a handshake, a server certificate, verifies the authenticity, the origin, and that it was issued by a trusted certificate authority. We distinguish between public and typically private or intranet certificate authorities. The public ones, they're actually the ones that ship their CA certificates as part of products like internet browsers, applications like IBM, Access Client Solutions, and so forth. So when the session is established during the handshake, a server sends down, as I mentioned, its server certificate. The certificate itself has identity information in there, what's called a subject DN. So that means, okay, the certificate belongs to that host or that organization. The organization is located in that particular city, in that country, and so forth. It has also a validity period. A certificate is expiring, so that means it has a from date, so when it's going to be valid from, until the end date. It's valid until that particular date. But what happens after a certificate has expired or reached its validity end date? So clients typically will not accept those certificates when they establish a session, and many server applications, so also like on IBMi or the FTP server on AIX, they will actually refuse to use that certificate anymore and refuse to accept any secure connection request from a client. So as a result, you will lose actually connectivity to your secure applications. And this causes a major outage, or could cause a major outage for intranet users if they want to connect to your business applications, or if you operate like a web shop, for example. All your shoppers out there around the globe cannot connect to your web shop anymore, and you will lose business. To actually manage the certificate expiration, you have to know when those certificates expire, and then you have to renew your certificates before they actually expire. And this is not an easy task unless you have a certificate authority that is informing you ahead of time about an expiring certificate. That leaves you enough time to actually kick off the renewal process. There's not really a way of telling, oh, this certificate is expiring soon. I have to perform a renewal request. I have to get a new signed certificate from my CA, assign it to the secure application so that I can provide my services without any disruption. Some of the administrators I have met over time, they maintain like a spreadsheet. They add all your certificates, where they are used, and their expiration date, and they say they're going to review it on a regular basis. My experience is just because I have seen so many outages already where certificates expire, that does not really work very well. That is the reason why we developed a tool that helps our clients to manage that expiration and inform them ahead of time about expiring certificates so that they can act before an outage occurs. So that tool has been developed by IBM Systems Lab Services and Training as an asset. It is a Java-based tool, so basically it can run on any platform that supports Java, like AIX or Linux, Windows, IBMi. So that's the only requirement. However, when it runs in an IBMi environment, the tool can also check for additional certificates that are actually stored in native certificate stores or key databases. We have 3 of them on IBMi. It's called the System Store. This store manages and stores all the certificates that are used for SSL or TLS enabled applications, as well as for VPN RSA authentication. Then we have an object signing store. If you actually ship, for example, programs or executable code, save files and so forth, and you want to actually digitally sign it so that the receiver can verify that it is originated from a trusted source, that is the object signing store that has these signing certificates in there. Then there's a signature verification store. This is typically used by the receiving side to verify certificate signature when you restore an object to a system, or when you verify the signature with a check object integrity command. In addition, you can also check custom certificate stores. For example, if you have a WebSphere application server running, accepting secure connections, then you can also specify those certificate stores to be checked. The check can also, and this is why it can be useful to be installed on all different kind of platforms, it can check also SSL or TLS enabled network services on all different kind of services that you operate in your intranet or perhaps on the internet. Because the tool itself can be configured for services that listen for secure connections, and as part of that session establishment, a secure handshake is performed. And during the handshake, as I mentioned before, a certificate is actually sent from the server to the client. And we exploit this particular handshake feature to get hold of the certificate and then check within the tool the validity period of the certificate and whether it's going to expire soon or not. The tool can also send expiration notifications to an administrator, for example, via email, or perhaps to a central logging server via the syslog protocol, like SIEM servers, if they're going to trigger an alert to an administrator to renew the certificate soon. It also maintains a log of all expiration activities. So if a certificate is going to be checked, this is also logged in a log file, and you can evaluate that result later on if you want to. The configuration is actually quite easy. If you run the tool on a system that supports a graphical user interface, like a Linux, for example, then you can use the graphical user interface for that. To configure the whole tool, and it stores the configuration in an XML file, and that XML file can actually be distributed to other systems where you want to run the tool on, like different IBMi systems or perhaps other servers that you run or operate in your network. The check itself can also be done, if you have a GUI, interactively or otherwise in batch mode, so that you have some sort of, on AIX, like a cron job, or on IBMi, a job schedule entry, where you just say, okay, I'm going to check once a week for expiring certificates, and then you will receive those notifications about a certificate expiration. So now we're already at the first configuration page, here we define what's called network services. Those are network applications like a telnet server, like an FTP server, HTTP server, that accept secure connection requests. So basically supporting TLS SSL connections. In that case, you specify a system description that should represent like a descriptive text about the service that you want to check for. In that case, it's a production telnet server on an ERP system. Specify the host name or IP address where that service is running. Also, the port the service is listening on. In that case, the secure telnet port is the well-known port 992. The next parameter actually specifies the protocol or connection type. 992, for example, accepts direct SSL handshakes. So in that case, it's a direct connection. Some other services like FTP or SMTP, they can actually accept also non-secure or unencrypted sessions and upgrade the connection to a secure connection. Like for FTP, there is an auth TLS subcommand or the start TLS command for SMTP, and this needs to be specified separately here. Then we also check for certificate chain trust. So each certificate, as I mentioned, is issued or signed by a certificate authority. Some certificate authorities actually operate a whole chain of certificate authorities. And then you have one root certificate. The root certificate signed then an intermediate CA certificate, and the intermediate CA certificate will eventually sign your server certificate. So there's a whole chain. And here you can actually say, okay, I actually want to also check whether that certificate was issued by a trusted certificate authority. In this case, you have to have all the CA certificates also in the tool's trust store. Or you just say, I only want to verify the validity period. I do not care about the trust store. Then you select no here. Then you can also specify whether you want to receive an email notification. There is actually a global tool setting that enables email notifications. In that case, you could just say default, and whatever the global setting is set for, you will receive notifications or not. Or you can override it here. We explicitly say here for that service, I want to receive a notification, or you don't. Then you can specify the notification type. In that case, you can specify if you want to receive always a notification when the tool runs and performs a check, even though the certificate might still be valid. For testing purposes, that might be a good setting. In real production, you would want to set it to only when expired. So when a certificate is not going to expire, you don't want to be bothered with any notification. But if it's going to expire, then you want to receive a notification. That would be the setting for that. You might want to set it also to never if you want to only interrogate your log file and see whether something is going to expire or not. That might be for test servers. Then you specify a list of, or just a single one, email address that will receive those notifications. And you can also specify whether you want to send syslog notifications. And here we also have a global setting, or you can override it on a particular service base. So here we now see all the services that have been configured. That can be even a longer list, where you can specify services that are running on an internet-based service out there on the web, or all your different kind of intranet services that listen for secure connection requests. For IBMi clients, we have that particular tab here where you specify those certificate stores that are native to IBMi only. And here you can select basically which certificate stores to check, the system, object signing, and signature verification store. And you can add all your custom stores that are, for example, WebSphere application server, or used by any kind of self-developed sockets application. You can also check for certificate expiration. Here you have the similar settings like for network services, whether you want to send email notifications, the email address that will receive those notifications, and also whether you want to send syslog notifications for that particular expiration checking. The Notification Details tab actually allows you to specify those global settings, whether you want to enable email notifications or you want to disable it. Then if you enable them, you specify also your mail relay that will actually accept those mails sent by the tool and then forward it to a proper email recipient. You specify the mail server address, whether the tool should establish a secure connection to your mail relay. And if your mail relay requires also authentication, you provide the user and password here. Then you can specify your sender email address that basically identifies the sender of the email that is actually sending those notifications. Then you have a mail prefix, actually a customizable HTML format text. You can specify then following that text in an email notification. There's actually all the certificate details about the expiring certificates, and then you can also specify a mail closing, like a contact or other kind of information. For syslog notifications, you can also enable or disable it globally. You specify your remote syslog server host name here. You can also specify a notification tag. This is part of the syslog header message or a message header, and also the facility it uses to log those messages to. So the default is local 0, but you can also specify or select any kind of standard facility names here. On the logging tab, you specify which certificate expiration log file name to use, whether you want to enable the logging, and also for debugging. Typically, you only want to be informed about severe errors. You can also turn it up to verbose mode to see a lot of logging functionality that is actually happening in the tool. That's typically only for debugging purposes. So here you have actually the expiration check tab. That lists now all the network services that you defined on the network services tab, and you specify the number of days for the expiration check. It automatically calculates from the current date plus those, in that case 60 days, the date. It displays it on the right, and then it will check when you perform the check with the button Perform Check. It will check all those certificates on the different services out there if they're going to expire within the next 60 days. If you set the proper notification settings, then you will receive mail for those expired certificates. So when you click Perform Check, it runs through. Eventually, it gives you the result also, like here in that case, for the first service, it says, okay, certificate will expire before the check date. The second one is actually still valid, and so forth. You can also select then a service and click on Details, and you would see the particular details here for that certificate check. In that case, it's for the production FTP server, where it runs, the check options that you specified. And here we see it was not valid before 13th of December 2016, and it expires 4th of December 2017, right? So whenever you receive that, you will see also the subject DN and who issued that certificate, including the serial number and some text and result code. So the email notification looks like this one here, that page. It has that email prefix up there, and then it lists here, this is an example of a network service. It lists the description, basically what you configured, again, including the subject DN, issuer DN, and so forth. In case you have checked certificate expiration in an IBMi certificate store, you will actually see which store was checked, and you also see the certificate label as it is stored and named within the certificate store. That makes it very easy to identify the certificate once you use the Digital Certificate Manager to perform the renewal process. So once you receive, or the administrator receives that email, he knows exactly on which system, for which service a certificate is going to expire, or perhaps has already expired, and then he can kick off the renewal process. In case you selected syslog notifications, you see here an example of the different results, like whether the certificate is still okay, it's still valid, or already expired. So there are different information that you receive in a common event format that can be processed directly on a syslog server, or perhaps security event and information management system, SIEM solution. So if you're interested in that tool, it's called IBM PowerSC Tools for IBMi, Certificate Expiration Manager. Again, this has been developed by IBM Systems Lab Services. It's available as an asset. What you get when you purchase that particular asset, it's actually a Java archive file that you need to run it on any kind of platform. Outside IBMi, a detailed user's guide with installation and configuration information, as well as a save file for our IBMi clients that can be restored, and it will actually pretty much set up everything for you on an IBMi environment. So, any queries or more information, then just drop an email to ibmsls@us.ibm.com. Thanks again for your attention, and again, we wish to hear from you. Any feedback or any perhaps enhancement requirements you might have, we're always free, and we're welcoming those recommendations. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.